told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark.
Welcome to You Matter in Business with Ariel Faith, your brand, your story, and your success, because you matter in your business. Welcome to You Matter in Business. I wanted to shift up things a little bit. This week, it's just going to be me. I know that I have been hosting this podcast with Miriam Richardson for quite some time, and she just took a tack. So I thought I would talk about change because this has actually brought up a lot of change for me and some of the emotions. And I've been doing a little research, and I thought I would share that research with you because knowing how our emotions work, knowing what they are saying and there's a process of reaction when you understand the emotions and how that flows, it becomes easier to navigate. You can see yourself in different stages and you're not going to stay stuck. And I think a lot of people feel like they are going to be stuck in an emotion, and that's kind of where it becomes super overwhelming. So I wanted to talk about the fact that the one thing in life you can count on, guess what it is? It's change, because everything changes. So I wanted to share some of the research I found. So why does our brain resist change? What is the reason? One of the things is, if you go back into we have this part of our brain that's called amygdala. I can't say that word quite right, but you guys know what I mean. It's a big long word that starts with an A that talks about your brain. So it's a center of the brain mass, right? So when we struggle with change, our brain is doing exactly what it was supposed to be doing. It's basically in our head, we have an alarm system. Amygdala, Amygdala. That's the part of the brain. I'm going to spell it for you instead of saying it. So we have this piece of us that's very important. It basically says, it's checking all the time. Is something safe? Are we in danger? So it's a natural protection, which we need. We need to know if there's a threat because then we can work on that. But there's a thing called negativity bias. So if we focus on the fears and the negativity, then that's what you're going to feed. So that alarm is going to go off more and more likely because it's going to fear there's some predator that doesn't really exist. So we have to learn to control our emotions. There's a book by Lisa Feldman Barrett, and she explains in this book called How Emotions Are Made that our brain is basically a prediction machine, consistently trying to figure out what's coming next. So when change messes up those predictions, it literally feels dangerous to our systems, even though we logically know it's not. But we still have that reaction to it. And when we're uncertain about something, we become exhausted. It's very tiring because our brain is on hyper alert trying to assess, is this dangerous? Is it not? What's happening? How are we shifting? Where are we going? So we have to really learn to quiet some of that and recognize it and then quiet some of that. So during this process, our brain's working extra hard. It's hyper alert. It's burning extra fuel. Even for good changes, like things that are positive, we still have some of the same reactions. So we can end up feeling emotionally exhausted. We can feel raw. Even things like weddings and babies can do the same thing to us. So there's different change styles. We all have different change tolerances. So some people thrive on novelty and others find deep satisfaction in routine. So understanding that there's a difference, we all perceive change and cope with change in different ways. It's kind of important. Neither way is better. They're just different operating systems. So understanding your own style without judging it is the key. And change isn't like flipping on a light switch. It's more like a river with rapids. There's calm stretches, and then sometimes you feel like you're going through backwards and you don't even know which way you're going. And even though you're still moving forward downstream, your just boat got turned around, right? So then there's change versus transition. In a book by William Bridges, it's called Transitions. He makes a critical distinction between change as the external stuff that happens, but transition is the internal process of adapting to it. So you have the change itself, which is the external information, external change, something we have no control over. And the transitions are the internal processes of coping and adapting and processing the change. The external thing can happen overnight. 9/11, earthquakes, hurricanes. We just had a tree fall on our car last night. So things can just happen, right? That we have to then deal with. But the internal transition can take months or years to actually transition. So that we have to be a little more patient with. And there's really 4 phases of that feeling. When we have that change, we have that like deer in the headlights, that shock stage, that feeling you where you might be numb or disconnected. This is our psyche protecting you from taking more than you can handle. So when you have that initial shock, that's that's the first phase of dealing with change. It's like, "Ah, did this really happen?" And then you have to deal with the fact that yes, and then there's a resistance. It's like, this isn't fair, or anger, or bargaining, or trying to get back to how things were. That serves a purpose in your system, processing the magnitude of what's changing. So that stage of resistance serves a purpose. So if you understand the purpose is to see how big of a change this is, what is the drama or the different things that it's going to affect. It allows you to kind of slow down. One is to protect you from like literally blowing up, which is your shock phase, because you need, this initial phase. Then there's exploration. So now you have gone through the numbness, you've gone through and by the way, these don't happen in any specific order. They're different for every person. So these are just different stages, kind of like grief. It's very, very similar. So there's exploration and then integration. So you have shock, resistance, exploration, and integration. Those are the 4 phases of change and transition. During the exploration stage, that's when you start thinking about new possibilities. You start thinking about what you can do with the change. Your emotions can swing really dramatically during this stage, because if you're thinking about possibilities, you might be processing the possibility of a very negative outcome versus a very positive outcome. And then you go back to a middle ground. So your brain is literally just saying, okay, this is a change. What can we do with it? So it's giving you several paths. The integration part comes in when you have a new reality and it starts to feel like home. So that change, like say you move in the first, who knows how long, but when you move from one state to another, there's getting to know people, there's a new house, new streets, new maps. So there's all these things you have to explore and learn, and you don't have the same support system. You have to get one. So this integration is when you start getting through all that, and it starts to feel like home. So you've developed a new routine, and you can look back with gratitude rather than longing. So you don't look back and go, "Oh, I wish I was back there." You start to appreciate and live where you are at the moment. Some people like tracking their journey. They keep a simple daily emotion check-in, just one sentence about their prominent feeling. This is one thing that helps people deal with change. They pay attention to their body. Does it feel like shock feels like tightness, resistance, jaw clencing? Integration feels like it's settling, right? You're calming down, if there's less energy inside yourself. And then giving yourself an emotional weather report, whether it's stormy or partly cloudy or sunny it actually helps you to identify the emotions you're feeling. And then it also creates a distance. When you put a label on an emotion, it creates a distance from the intensity of it. That's just an interesting point that I learned in the research I did. So when change anxiety hits, we have to have tools that can help us. So here's some practical toolkits that I thought I would share with you. There's a grounding technique. This is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Okay. Name 5 things you can see. This helps you stay grounded in the moment. 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 you can taste. This is called the tolerance, the distress tolerance. So you're creating space between you and the overwhelming feeling. So another technique is box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and then out for 4. Very slow, intentional breaths. Hold for 4, breathe for 4. So Navy SEALs apparently use this because it activates in your body a natural calming system. It's also very similar to some of the Lamaze techniques that were used when you are doing pain management. I don't know if they teach that anymore in the world of new mothers, but I used it for all 4 of my children, and it was I still use it today if I need it. If there's a physical pain that I have to kind of work through, it's a technique that helps you cope with intense feelings or pain. So another technique is name it to tame it. Okay, so you're going to name the emotion, which will help you tame the emotion. So when you name emotions, the activity in your fear center decreases. Okay, so that fear center, once you put a label on it, it now knows that there's ways of handling it. So while your thinking brain activates, so your fear center quiets and your thinking brain activates. So to be specific, instead of saying, I'm stressed, try, I'm anxious about the unknown of this job. I'm grieving the relationships at my old workplace. So the difference between saying I'm stressed will keep you stressed. The difference between saying I'm anxious, stress is an outside factor, being anxious is an emotion. And then another technique a lot of people tell you when you're dealing with emotions is writing them. Because when you write them down, you amplify those thoughts, the effect of those thoughts, your feelings, and you can improve your mental and physical health just in the act of writing down what you're feeling. It's kind of like you're downloading all the overwhelming stuff onto a piece of paper and then you just leave it there and it's no longer consuming you. Another technique that I thought was worth sharing is called stability anchors, where you keep micro routines that help you feel nurturing. Okay, so if you're moving, as an example, moving from state to state, but you might be a morning coffee person, you might have evening walks, and you might talk to a specific person every Sunday afternoon. Well, no matter where you live, you can still do that. So you can keep those micro routines that are nurturing to you, whatever those might be. And these routines help create what's called a cognitive ease, preserving your mental energy for the bigger challenges that you have to face. So this really helps you to stay like constant when everything shifts, creates a nurturing physical environment. You can do that with soft lighting, meaningful photographs, comfortable textures. So you can create a world around you that produces a calming effect. So when you're in the stress of these situations or in the anxiousness, you can cope with them. And the 4th point I wanted to bring out was transforming your relationships with change. So this is about moving from experiencing change as something that happened to you to seeing it as a meaningful partner in your growth. So you actually are going to have a relationship with the transitioning effects of change. So you're basically reframing your story. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try, what might this teach me? See how that shift gives you a different reaction to the same exact situation? Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last human freedom, is to choose one's attitude at any given set of circumstances. That was written by Viktor Frankl in a book called Man's Search for Meaning. So let's review what he said there. Everything can be taken from a man. Absolutely true. Everything. But the one thing that you will always have is your ability to choose your attitude under any circumstances. That is where the power lies. So when you reframe your situations and your feelings and the things that are going on in your mind, this will help you take control of your attitude and your reactions. And you're not going to be reactive, you're going to be proactive. So another thing that's super important is change really helps you build resistance skills, because research shows that resilience isn't a personality trait. It's an ordinary magic. It's a learnable skill. So resilience is a learnable skill. Start small with voluntary changes. Rearrange your furniture. Take different routes to where you normally go. Order something new. Build change self-efficiency. So that confidence in your ability to adapt to change. So change things on purpose in your life, if this is really hard for you, that allow you to learn that change is okay. Change isn't always bad. It's not the end of the world is coming situation. Then practice getting comfortable with uncertainty through mindfulness. So you are, if you were, when you change when you take account of what's worked, where your strengths are, what did you discover through an experience, what strategies worked, when you collect those in your mind of what worked for you and what didn't, then this whole process becomes easier. That's part of learning the skills, learning how to cope. So, and when you can also find meaning in the change, and some of that, it's crazy, but some of the biggest changes that we experience in life create the greatest growth.
Behind the lens, crafting tales and news.
Bring your marketing, your brand to life with storytelling and strategy. Cut through the noise with clear messaging and compelling visuals that resonate with your ideal client. We bring strategy, story, and visuals to help you with your marketing. Visit arieljoyfaith.com and schedule a consultation and see how we can help you bring your brand to
No
life.
selfies here, just genuine sight. Authenticity in every lie.
We develop new strengths, we deepen relationships, we have clear priorities because you've navigated a difficulty. So learning to get the best out of that change on the other side. So your challenging transitions helps you connect with others going through similar things. So then you can help others through their change. Significant change often clarifies what really matters, which moves relationships and values from the background to the center. So change can actually be a catalyst for a lot of good in your life if you look at it like a partner. If you look at it like, okay, these are the stages, those 4 stages of change. We have the shock when we don't believe that it happened. We have the resistance when we're trying to fight it and justice of it. And then we explore options, and then we integrate into our lives the change, whatever that change might be. And then there's different ways that we talked about coping with having a toolkit, different activities or exercises that help you calm down when you're in the height of an emotion. So I'm going to give you 3 takeaways for today. So first, be gentle with yourself when change feels overwhelming. Your resistance isn't a character flaw. It's your brain keeping you safe. Second, change is a process, not an event. Expect ups and downs. You're actually where you need to be in your unique journey. And third, the goal isn't to eliminate discomfort, but to dance with it more skillfully. Every transition is a chance to discover strengths and become more of who you were meant to be. So I'm going to give you an action assignment, and I'm going to say, pick one of the tools that we discussed, if this is a problem for you, and commit to trying it daily. Maybe box breathing, specific emotion naming, or one small stability ritual. Consistency matters more than perfection. You've made it through 100% of your difficult days so far. That's an incredible track record. Trust yourself to grow through whatever change lies ahead. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And I wanted to just briefly let you know that the reason I went through this change is Miriam will be joining me less and less as time goes on. She took on a new position, and I'm very happy for her. She's been looking and looking, and she is now currently way busier than she was before in terms of her time. And I will be tacking, you'll see a little bit more interviews from me. And then I will share different things in between that I think are important, that help us not only be sound in our lives, but also sound in our businesses. Because change happens a lot in business. Let's be honest. And some of that change can be devastating in business because it affects your ability to provide. So those feelings we have to learn to cope with. And there's a lot of resources out in the show notes. I'm going to include a couple of the books that I thought were worthy of sharing if you're interested in learning more. And this, again, is all about that emotional intelligence. The more you understand emotion and the process of emotion, the more intelligent you become, the more intelligently you react or handle a situation. So I enjoyed talking to you today, and I will see you again soon, or hear you again soon. No, you will hear. I'd love to hear from you, actually. So like, comment, and share, and let me know what your big pain points are and what you would like me to include in further episodes. And I thank you and have a great day. See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success, because I know that you matter in business. Thank you for listening to You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. I would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Storytelling Marketing and Your Brand Photographer. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and more information about this episode. Thank you again.
They told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark, lighting up the dark. Rediscover your own fire, chase the dreams that lift you higher. Redefine your role today, brand new in every way. Build your confidence through my lens, break the walls you put up since. Embrace your power, hear your roar. You are meant for so much more. You are meant for so much more.